Hello and welcome to tonight's News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories in Scotland tonight. Bus services around Ayrshire and Arran are disrupted today because of a strike by drivers. Members of the Unite Union are in a dispute with the local arm of Stagecoach over pay. Nature Scot has agreed to work towards a shooting licence in a bid to tackle the number of raven and crow attacks on livestock in Orkney. And we will speak to the director of a new documentary about Michelle Mone's journey from Glasgow's East End to the House of Lords and reported profits from PPE during lockdown. Hello, I'm Amy Irons and welcome to the News at 7. Good evening. Bus services around Ayrshire and Arran have faced disruption today due to a strike by drivers. Members of the Unite Union are in dispute with the local arm of Stagecoach over pay, with the union planning 6 weeks of further action after the bus operator failed to improve on a 4% pay rise for members. Gillian Sharp has more.
This dispute has been weeks and more in the making. Unite, the union which represents drivers, and Stagecoach in the Ayrshire and Arran area can't agree on a pay settlement. The union says about 400 drivers are on strike. Stagecoach West Scotland says it's offering a reduced bus service today, although some routes won't run. Local people had mixed views.
It's quite an inconvenience because I can't go to the places, so I need to rely on my mum to give me lifts everywhere.
I think everybody, with the price of everything going up, deserve a rise.
You always want to support a strike. The company should have paid them more and listened to their demands.
Very disappointed, bearing in mind that a lot of elderly people who have no cars are having to stay at home.
The union claims that driver pay in this area is low and the offer they've been given by the company unacceptable.
What it fails to recognise is that our members are the lowest paid bus drivers across the whole of the UK in terms of Stagecoach. So for our drivers, 4% of nothing is nothing, frankly.
Stagecoach argues its offer would see hourly pay for drivers rise by nearly 12%, saying it's committed to reaching a fair and sustainable agreement. 2 more strike days are scheduled for next week, but if there's no resolution, we could be looking at a further 6 weeks of action. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland, Kilmarnock.
Some of the day's other news now, and a killer who stabbed a teenager to death before hiding the murder weapon in the grounds of the King's official residence in Edinburgh has been jailed for life. Bailey Dowling was ordered to serve 15 years in jail before he is eligible to apply for release. He killed 18-year-old Lewis McCartney in February 2023. The High Court in Edinburgh heard Mr McCartney had everything to live for, and his loss was devastating for his family and friends. 2 police officers were taken to hospital and 3 men were charged following a disturbance in Glasgow. Emergency services were called to Kirkton Avenue in the Knightswood area around 10 to midnight on Friday. 3 men were arrested, while the officers who received treatment for their injuries have been released from hospital. Locals in Kincardineshire are fighting to save a historic church which was the inspiration for one of Scotland's best-loved novels. Arbuthnot Church was behind Sunset Song, with the remains of its author, Lewis Gratick Gibbon, buried in its graveyard. It's now being put up for sale by the Church of Scotland, which says it recognises the building as important and valuable, but says it needs a significant reduction in the properties that it owns. And St Andrews has once again been named Scotland's most expensive coastal location, according to new research from the Bank of Scotland. The average home in the historic Fife town now costs £458,000, up 8% in the last year. The research is based on house price data from the Register of Scotland and the Land Registry, and tracks house movement in 54 coastal locations in Scotland and 197 in total across the UK. Nature Scot has agreed to work towards a shooting licence to allow farmers to control populations of ravens and crows in Orkney, with the same to be considered for Shetland. It comes as the regulator accepted the scale of attacks on livestock such as sheep and calves by the birds at a recent meeting in Orkney. Farmers have welcomed the move.
It's going to make a huge difference The animal welfare will be greatly improved. We'll be able to protect the livestock as we should always have been able to do so. Mentally, well, if we see a problem, we can go and deal with it. It doesn't drag on. We're not got the same problem. Birds coming week after week back to the same field again, and yeah, it means that we should hopefully have more livestock to sell.
Michelle Mone rose to prominence as one of Scotland's most recognisable entrepreneurs, having built a lingerie empire. Now, a two-part documentary series for BBC Scotland delves into her journey from Glasgow's East End to the House of Lords, exploring her fame, fortune and reported profits from PPE during lockdown. Earlier, I spoke to the documentary's producer, Erica Jenkins, and asked her how the programme came together.
Yes, so the programme is, as you said, it's divided into two different episodes, and we decided to call the first Rise and the second Fall, and they sort of demarcate very neatly into the first being her looking at her career, her how she came to prominence in the late 90s and early noughties as an entrepreneur, a female entrepreneur, and founded her business MJM International, and came to the forefront really with her Ultimo bra, which was to sort of rival the likes of the Wonder Bra and Gossard's push-up bras. And so the first episode very much sort of looks at that success and has a lot of very joyful moments in it, but also looks at the trajectory of sort of as she started to become more famous, what that meant in terms of her dynamics with her family, dynamics with colleagues, work colleagues, and her kind of growing ambition. And then the second episode, which we've called Fall, looks much more at her move into the political world, her appointment by David Cameron into the House of Lords, and of course the most recent PPE controversies that she has become involved in.
Yeah, there is so much to fit in the two parts of the documentary. How exactly did you balance that then, Erica? Just the achievements, but also the controversies of Michelle Mone. It can't have been easy to do both of those two things.
Very much so. I think, we had a huge amount of archive to work with, which is brilliant. Often when you're making stories like this, it can be very difficult to know what to put on screen. And actually, in the case of Michelle, she's been, that's one of the reasons she became so successful in the beginning, was she was just extremely charismatic, very good at promoting herself, promoting her business, and the press absolutely loved her story and wanted to tell her story, and it was great for her and her business to have that press. So I think, there's a huge amount of archive that we were able to work with. And in that archive, there is a real range of light and shade. And it was very important for us to show that in the programme, to have a balance of the two things and not to lean too heavily to one. So, it absolutely has moments of, real joy, and certainly in terms of her early career and what she achieved, being someone who, was a mother of three and didn't have very much, managing to sort of get her bra out there and become very famous, but also looking at the more serious allegations that have been made in recent years.
And you can watch the first of two parts of The Rise and Fall of Michelle Mone on the BBC Scotland channel at 10 o'clock tonight, and it is also available on iPlayer 2. Time for a look at the day's sporting news then, and Kilmarnock have confirmed the appointment of Stuart Kettlewell as their new manager. The former Motherwell and Ross County boss replaces Dent McInnes, who left the Rugby Park club to join Hearts earlier this month. Kettlewell left Fir Park in January, citing personal abuse during a run of poor results. With more, here's Jane Lewis.
Well, it's almost 4 months to the day that Stuart Kettlewell left his job as Motherwell manager, saying that the abuse that he was receiving was starting to affect his family. But despite that experience, he says he's ready to return to the managerial dugouts and says that Kilmarnock feels like the right fit.
I believe I'm a humble enough person to admit it, is you learn little bits yourself as well. And one of the things that I've spoken about is that this is my job. It doesn't have to be my family's life, and I really do stand by that. And I think you learn a little bit from within that, and making sure that you do your job and your family live their life. And I'm sure everyone in this room can associate with the family aspect of it. I'm not pulling in the heartstrings. It's just that sometimes you learn a little bit from within that about how close that needs to be, or potentially how far it needs to be.
Well, Stuart Kettlewell also revealed that he spent some time down at Everton with fellow Scottish manager Davy Moyes in his time away from football. He now says that he's fully focused on all things Kilmarnock, and he wants the squad as best prepared as they can be ahead of the new season, which gets underway in round about 7 weeks' time with the group stages of the League Cup.
Jane Lewis there. Now Ross County face Livingston tonight as they hope to emerge victorious for the third year in a row from the Premiership playoffs. The tie is finally poised after the first leg in Livingston on Thursday, where Danny Wilson saw Livingston go one up before Ronan Hale's 96th minute penalty secured a 1-1 draw. Fans on both sides are predicting a win, but it will be hard fought.
My gut feeling is it's going to be really close. I think we could still be going into the late stages, maybe with just a goal in it, or the tie still level. And yeah, we'll just we'll see what happens.
We'd feel a lot better if we were going up with the 1-goal advantage that I think that we did deserve. But you know, you've got to kind of roll with it. And at the end of the day, we'd probably have to be going up there anyway to get a result. So nothing kind of really changes in that mindset, I would say. We've still got to go up there and do a job, and yeah, hopefully we can do as we've done on quite a few occasions this season and show up for that big occasion against one of the kind of better teams and get a good result.
Yeah, big match ahead. Sticking with football, and Scotland's women's captain Rachel Corsie has announced she is retiring after living in chronic pain with a knee injury that kept her out for the majority of the season. The 35-year-old's been called up by Scotland one last time for the final 2 Nations League games against Austria and the Netherlands. Corsie, who has just left her club side Aston Villa, says knowing I'm going to stop playing at the highest point feels like the right place for me. Let's see how the weather is looking. Here's Chris.
Good evening. Well, we've got a pretty unsettled week of weather ahead, with some blustery showers or longer spells of rain, all driven by areas of low pressure barrelling in off the Atlantic, and there'll be some high winds at times too. Through this evening, we've got heavy rain through central and southern Scotland. That tends to clear, and then overnight, a mixture of clear spells and a few showers. Driest conditions in the east, and temperatures in towns and cities 6 or 7 Celsius, but fairly cloudy with frequent showers in the Northern Isles. So first thing tomorrow, some early brightness around across the mainland, particularly across eastern parts of the country. Showers more frequent in the west, and then mid to late morning, clouds thickens in the south up towards the central lowlands. Some heavy rain just towards the far south there, just fringing in towards Dumfries and Galloway, perhaps the borders at times too. Cloudy with showers through much of the central lowlands, but north of around Perth, some sunshine in between those showers, but once again those showers could be on the heavy side. Quite blustery conditions around the north coast and across Orkney and Shetland, with areas of cloud and showers here. Tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, the rain in the south clears, and then we're left with something a little bit quieter, and that's really Wednesday's story, with some bright spells, a few showers coming in on lighter winds, and temperatures up a notch, highs of 16. Heavy rain overnight though, and that is still with us on Thursday, becoming confined to the far north. Elsewhere, fairly frequent blustery showers and highs of 15 degrees for most come mid-afternoon. That's the forecast for now.
And just before I go, Scotland players Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmour have been enjoying somewhat sunnier weather on an open-top bus parade in Naples to mark their Italian title win. Napoli secured the Scudetto with a final day win on Friday, with McTominay just named Serie A Player of the Season, scoring one of 2 goals in that match. The team have been doing a victory lap of Naples today. Safe to say they were enjoying that. Well, where will the celebrations be later, Dingwall or Livingston? Remember, you can follow that Premiership playoff final on BBC Radio Scotland and online, and of course all the news on the BBC app. The News at 17 will be back with you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.